welcome to a video essay, or mindless rambling for 10 minutes, about the way one's body works with tools. So we've all heard the expression that the body uses a tool as an extension of its body. And it's been thrown around for literal centuries, but it actually has a base not only in science, but in practice. So I have demonstrations and actual scientific evidence to back this up. The first of my demonstrations will be done with this. This is a katana. It's got a curved single-edged blade that you can fit two hands on the handle, and that's going to be important. So it's a two-handed blade. The second will be done with a bow staff, which I do not have here. And the third will be done with a medieval arming sword. So this one, unlike the katana, is straight and double-edged, and you can only fit one hand on it. See, if I try to fit my other hand on the grip, my pinky's hanging off and I'm wrapping around the pommel, and that's no good. So this will be meant to test how the body works with one hand rather than two. The first demonstration is a very basic empty hand strike. I'll be throwing a reverse punch and demonstrating exactly how my hips and shoulders move behind the punch to give it power, and how this will carry over to the katana demonstration. So in this demonstration, you could see my front hand goes out and my back hand follows with the punch. My front hand pulls back and it gives the punch power because my shoulders and hips are both turning. You can also see in this example, my hand pulls back to my hip instead. Okay, so now from another angle, my hand comes out and you can see my front hand pulls back to my chest or my hip, giving my shoulder the ability to move out behind the punch and get both reach and power. You can also see my hips are turning with the punch. So this next demonstration is going to be one with a katana. It's meant to be the same type of strike, where I'm striking primarily with my right hand and using my hips and shoulders to back it up. The front hand will also pull in the same way as you saw with the punch. So the first strike in this part of the demo is going to be a strike toward the upper chest. Now notice I stop it before I overswing. Most people will grip a sword choking up and strike widely. That's not the way you're supposed to use a katana. Your thumbs stay on the back spine of the blade, and you grip your hands as far apart as they can be, with your right hand staying closer to the guard while your left hand stays toward the back, so you can pull your hand back and generate power like that. So from another angle, the incorrect way, you can see the blade goes all the way past my body, whereas given proper hand placement, you can strike and the blade stops first while you still have the same amount of power. So these are a few more downward cuts just to show how my left hand is used as a lever action to pull the blade down and generate power. So the third portion of this demo is going to be with a staff to demonstrate the same process of movement. As you can see here, exactly like the other two examples, my front hand moves out first and then pulls back to my chest as my back hand strikes. This can also be applied to pulling the front hand to the hip in the same way as the punch. So if I swing diagonally with the bow, the front hand rests at the hip at the end of the strike. From another angle, you can see my front hand comes out and then pulls back to my chest as the back hand comes out. Just a quick full speed strike to show you the speed before I move on to diagonal. So as you can see again, my left hand nests at my hip after the strike is completed, and my right hand strikes out. So the fourth of the demos is going to be one with an arming sword. Since arming swords are one-handed, as I pointed out earlier, the demo is going to be a different type of motion. It's going to be the motion of one's hand to their center line as their backhand strikes. So you can see after I draw the sword, my left hand immediately goes to my center line and I get into a guard. This is, of course, if you don't have a shield or anything, because that would then be on the side of your body. So you can throw a cut and my hand still stays on my center line. So throwing unarmed strikes, it would be the same concept. So if I threw a downward strike, this is a very common motion in karate. My backhand moves to my shoulder. My front hand goes out to either strike or to guard. And I strike with my backhand as I step forward. So this is a full speed strike. And then if I draw the blade again, you can see the same motion. So my backhand goes up, my front hand comes out, and I strike. This could also be applied to faking or feinting. So I lift up the blade and then strike low. So open-handed would be the same thing. My offhand comes up and I strike to the body. And it's from a different angle, empty-handed. I get into a guard, and then as you can see, my backhand comes up to my shoulder and I strike. So full speed as a strike. And then drawing the blade again, you can see my backhand comes to my shoulder and it's a full speed cut. So this concept also has a base in folklore. There's one legend told in Japan about two swordsmiths who really did live, Muramasa and Masamune. Muramasa was known to be a very aggressive man, and his blades were no different. Here is a katana made by Muramasa. The legend held that the aggressiveness of the smith was transferred into the blade through the forging process, so much that any warrior who wielded a katana made by Muramasa would fly into a bloodthirsty frenzy if the blade didn't draw blood before it returned to the scabbard. These katanas were eventually banned in Japan by Tokugawa Ieyasu because he thought that the katanas were out to get his family. His father and grandfather had both been killed by one, his son had committed ritual suicide with one, and he himself had also been cut by one in his younger days. It was also alleged that when his wife was executed, she was killed with a Muramasa katana. The other smith, Masamune, on the other hand, was well known to be a very peaceful person, and this was also translated into his weapons. It was told that if the wielder of the weapon decided mid-swing that the target was innocent, the blade would harmlessly bounce off despite being incredibly sharp. Pictured here is a katana said to be made by him. The legend tells of a conversation between the two, unlikely to be real considering they lived far apart. But the two were talking about which one was the better blacksmith, and they each decided to forge a katana to test. After they'd made their swords, each dipped them into the river and watched the blades cut. Muramasa's katana sliced everything, the branches, the leaves, the fish. Everything that touched the edge was cleanly sliced in two. Masamune's katana, however, cut branches and leaves perfectly, but the fish bounced off the edge without a scratch. Seeing this, Muramasa declared himself the winner because his blade cut every single thing while Masamune's didn't. But a traveling monk who saw the competition declared Masamune the winner, as his blade knew not to cut that which was alive and innocent, unlike Muramasa's, which blindly cut anything in its path. There's also a base in science to this concept. An experiment was done to prove that the brain regarding tools as body parts extended further than just martial arts. Volunteers were told to lift up a block with their hand, then given a grabber like the one pictured, and told to pick up the same block again. After this, they were told to put down the grabber and pick up the block again with their own hand. The scientists found the volunteer grabbed the block much slower the second time after using the grabber, as the volunteers' brains had acclimated to their arms being heavier. Additionally, volunteers were then told to stretch out their arm and were touched on the elbow, wrist, or middle fingertip, and asked to touch right above the point of contact. The results stated that the volunteers rated their arms as longer after using the grabber. This suggests that the body still thought the grabber was attached to the arm, therefore making the arm longer.